would it be too much to say that looking at scientific temper as a way of life might underline the political underpinnings of this concept?
Well, yes, but let me rephrase that, if I may. I would argue that the explicit reclaiming of the societal significance of what is broadly called scientific temper, which we've been talking about, the reclaiming of its significance is an overtly political act, is an overtly, try and be careful, communitarian act, is an overtly anti-elite act. And in those ways is a component, and I argue an indivisible component, of radical politics. Quite frequently, we have, in radical politics, we have in a sense abandoned science and scientificness to the elite. And I'm arguing that in modern independent India terms, the Nehruvian notion of scientific temper, which in my eyes goes all the way back to the Lokayats and the Bauddhas and the Jains, that is part and parcel of a post-colonial anti-elite radical political struggle.
But Satyajit, there is also the counterpart in culture, because you have this whole the ivory tower of high culture, and it would be foolish to say that there's no value there, but it would be equally foolish and disgraceful actually to pretend that that is high art and high cultures, that's the only place where culture resides. So similarly, what would you say about a kind of science with a capital S, which is so valued that I know, for example, when we're talking about Carnatic music and we want to explain how rich it is, people will say it is a science, which sort of gives it a leg up. So there's that primacy, science with a capital S, and then there's popular science, which is, sort of for the people, almost like the informal classroom in education.
Absolutely.
Would you react to those kind of differences?
So I agree with you in the sense that I think that the idea of popular science as she's currently practiced is somewhat of an uncomfortable oddity, because it's neither popular, given how much you have to struggle over it, given how much its practitioners have to struggle over it, nor, properly speaking, is it science. Why is it not science? Let's not worry about why it's not popular, but why is it not science? It's not science because the way it is by and large, with laudable exceptions, but the way it is by and large practiced is by explaining the world to people who are not involved in trying to understand that particular domain of it. And what that loses is the open-ended, uncertain, tentative, provisional, looking for evidence and being willing to be wrong and being willing to correct oneself approach that is part of the scientific temper. In fact, that is how communities have always practiced scientific temper. The idea of popular science, on the other hand, is an authoritarian version. Well, it's an authoritative version. I tend to think of it as also to some measure an authoritarian version of this is how the world works. And we are telling you this, and we know that this is how the world works. And if you think about it, that's deeply antithetical to what I just said about the scientific temper. So my difficulty with the idea of popular science runs very deep. On the other hand, the argument of science with a capital S and its distancing from community life, its co-option, if you will, into elite spheres, is part and parcel of all cultural artifacts and praxis that elite circles tend to place value on. Because as soon as they do, there is inevitable co-option. This gets worse and worse in a certain sense if you also incorporate the economics into the equation. All said and done, if somebody is going to spend a lifetime worrying about how the world works in a certain small domain, then their funding, their livelihood, all of these become issues that inevitably link to elite and exploitative economics.